Hi everyone, welcome to the Phillip Island Grand Prix circuit and round 4 of the Australian GT Championship. It's been a thriller this year with a whole new range of cars and drivers coming to Australian shores to take on the best of the best in Australia's top GT category. And the racing has been thrilling. We're 3 rounds down. Clark Quinn leads the standings by just a handful of points over Nathan Morecambe. So it's a McLaren 1-2 at the top of the standings. James Kanduris and Marcus Marshall are next. Scott Taylor and Craig Baird for Mercedes-Benz. Just after them, then the Lamborghinis, some Porsches and Ferraris in a great field. It's going to be a big weekend here at the island. Leading the points is Clark Quinn. He's been a quiet achiever this year, just racking up the points on his quest for another Aussie GT title.
So we've had 3 rounds now. This is our round 4, and we're leading the championship by slim margin. We just got bank points here. This is not my strong circuit, so I'll be just trying to bank as many points as possible. Come to Townsville next round and the New Zealand round, I'll be quite strong, so I just need to bank some points here. It's been performing really well all year. It's been very consistent. We've had no real problems and very fast. So you know, it's an absolute privilege to drive a car like this. And the beauty is just the driver aids and how much better the cars keep getting every year. They just keep progressing, and it's just an absolute luxury to drive these cars and driving the advancements, you know, that follow through from Formula 1 down to GT3 racing. It's great.
Rising through the ranks this year is young gun Nathan Morecambe. Quinn knows that he has to watch his back or see his hopes at another title disappear altogether.
He's very good and just an absolute nice guy. You know, if he wins the championship, he'll be a very deserving champion, and you know, wish him all the best. But, you know, I'm going for my 3rd championship myself, so I'd love to put that behind me as well.
Morecambe is looking to make a big impact this season by taking his maiden Australian GT Championship. But with a field this tight, he knows it's anyone's game.
We're already halfway through the season, so we got this round and 2 more in the sprint round. We're all separated within 15 points, I'm pretty sure. Marcus and James, they're all just less than 20 points behind us. And Clark definitely handy behind the wheel. So we're just looking to get the points, keep heading and try and get the wins. Clark and myself are both in the McLaren 650F, so it's probably a pretty nice throat to cut. But definitely looking forward to this weekend.
Hectic weekend at the island with not just the Australian GT Championship but the 101 race. That comes later on in the program. 2 races for the Australian GT Championship here. Joining me in commentary for this is Renato Liberto, Australian GT Championship racer and a multiple starter at the Bathurst 12-hour. We're going to take a look at some highlights of race 1, Renato. This is what happened a little bit earlier on in the day. Check out some of these shots as the field runs down into a flat-out turn 1. This is wild stuff.
And you know, from an 80k rolling start, you're still approaching turn 1 there at over 200 k's an hour. Somebody pushed well wide there into the grass. That would have ended in a bit of a mowing expedition for them at that point.
So just over an hour races, a timed hour race, 2 of them in the day. So it's a busy schedule. The race is running almost back to back. And it started out early as a fight between Audi and McLaren as the field sorted themselves out. And Barton Moore, Sydney-sider behind the wheel of Greg Taylor's number 5 Audi, having won the opening round of the GT Trophy Championship at Sandown earlier this year in an older spec Audi. And then the compulsory pit stops happen, and this is where the field gets shaken up. Dean Canto jumps out of his car, Yasser Shaheen jumps in.
And that's right, and in these CTPS, you've got 55% of the race is the maximum that the basically the top-seated driver is able to do. Great move up the inside there by the Beechwood McLaren, and also sneaking up the inside D'Alberto in car 80. Great opportunistic move there into turn 4.
And as the pit stops shuffled themselves out, Tony Walls behind the wheel of the Objective Racing McLaren 650S, run out of Queensland's McElrea Racing stable, grabbed the race lead, sharing with Warren Luff at times this season. And meanwhile, the Beechwood car was pressing on hard to try and gain some spots back. Unfortunately, though, it didn't go well down at MG.
Now, Elliott's shown the nose up the inside a little bit. It would have been hard for the 488 there to see what's going on. They're left-hand drive cars. It would have been in a bit of a blind spot, and a bit of light contact. I'm sure they both got going again though.
And then an evolving story at Phillip Island this weekend. Tyre dramas, especially on the Audis. 2 Pirellis down in quick succession. The Marcus Marshall James Kandura's car was one of them. Meanwhile, Tony Walls was gobbled up by the field as they regained some speed after the pit stops. It was Clark Quinn, championship leader, coming into the weekend, working his way past.
With those Audis and the tyres, they're going to have to really worry if we're not even to the checkered flag in a 60-minute race yet. We've got effectively 3 hours to do tomorrow in the 101. They're going to have to really think about their setup and make sure those tyres are going to last. It
was a great drive for young Nathan Morecambe. Stormed his way to the lead and grabbed a victory in the DPO number 60 McLaren 650S GT3. That puts him on the front row for race 2. Alongside him, Yasser Shahin and Dean Canto in the Lamborghini Gallardo. So great to see the Lamborghini at the pointy end of the field. Yasser with a personal best result of second in race number 1, looking to go one better in this one. McLaren and Ferrari just behind. It's such a stacked field though, isn't it, Renato? It's so open, so competitive, and so many good names a little bit further down the grid for this one.
Exactly right, and you could be, now in Australian GT with such a strong field of cars and drivers, you can be less than a second off the pace and be 7 or 8 grids back. It's just incredible how tight this has all become at the pointy end of the field.
Upwards of 16 cars covered by a second and a half in qualifying. It's just remarkable, isn't it? Over a 4.5k lap too. It's not like it's a short way round the Phillip Island Grand Prix circuit. Rolling start, as is the custom for GT racing, and we're underway. Great start from the second row. Clark Quinn in the double lead. Sticks McLaren will go down the inside at turn 1. He might not grab the lead, but he'll certainly get P2.
Great move there by Clark. He got the jump. He just saw the clean air on the right-hand side. Quite often people will crowd the left to get the run into turn 1. He just saw the opportunity, got the nose up there, and of course McLaren, he's going to let him through, and he's made a good job of it. Now they've got to basically gang up on the Lamborghini and try and make the most of this.
They might be separate teams, but they're all playing for the same manufacturer, and that's so important in GT racing these days. Dominic Story and Peter Hackett share the number 63 Eggleston Motorsport Mercedes-Benz AMG GT. Big move for the BMW around the outside.
He would have been hard on that brake pedal. I've been in that situation before, and when you've got 2 or 3 cars around you and cars turning in front, you just want the thing to pull up and stop. Great move though, super aggressive driving on the first lap, and he's got the job done and he'll move up another position.
Stephen Richards and Max Twigg in the works BMW, of course, joined by a second car this weekend with Mark GT bringing their M6, and it's great to see finally some progress from that squad. They've had a really tough couple of rounds to start the season, but now they're up to speed. Ricky Capo in the mix in this as well. He's in the middle of that battle pack there. The youngster from Melbourne, reigning Australian F3 champion in the BMW Z4.
On board now with the Antunes and Barber car. These guys have been super quick this weekend. They're very, very competitive guys.
Whoa.
Oh, he's been pushed wide there. Looks like by one of the BMWs. Just ran out of room there. Hopefully he can get this thing through the gravel trap and just keep momentum in the car.
This is the scrap for the lead. Yasser Shahin's under all sorts of pressure at the pointy end from Clark's McLaren. The DPO car at race 1 winner just behind, and then the Ferrari.
There's some big names and some quick cars behind Yasser. He's doing an awesome job at the start of this race to hold those guys behind him. And he's not holding them up either. He's doing some fantastic lap times. He's giving the guys plenty of room to sort of work their way around if they want to try. But he's just driving exceptionally well.
And some drivers going for the one driver option in this race. As you see, a change of lead and car 37 goes to the front. Some running 2 drivers, so you can go solo in this race. Either way, you still get a pit stop time when you make your compulsory pit stop midway through the motor race. And off the road gets shuffled the Maranello Ferrari. Tony D'Alberto and Graham Smythe, the young Kiwi, sharing that car. And look, looming just behind them is the Scotty Taylor Motorsport Mercedes-Benz that Scott and Craig Baird will drive this weekend, as they are all season. They ended up with a win at Barbagallo, had a win earlier in the year at Albert Park, the first win globally for the AMG GT. So many benchmarks being set in Aussie GT racing this year.
And I tell you what, Kralsey, that although the cars are all built to different specifications by different brands, ultimately they're trying to compete on the same level playing field. And to look on screen now and see a bunch of McLarens, bunch of Lamborghinis, BMWs, Ferraris, all fighting for that same piece of bitumen just shows that this formula globally is where it's at.
And your career's been well documented. You've spent a lot of time with Ferrari. It's so important, this category around the world, and people paying attention to Australian GT. Porsche are paying attention, not necessarily because their car's pointing in the wrong direction. Unfortunately, Johnny Martin and Devastan Padiachi sharing that car this year, but they've got a big involvement now with the Walkinshaw Group, who are running that car, run it in the factory livery when they debuted at Porsche Rennsport earlier this year.
Replay of McLaughlin and Tander just run out of room there. It always bunches up at the start. If somebody jumps too early and has to back out, you can see the amount of momentum that he's lost there because of that. On board the Z4 here with Capo. He's got his eyes forward, just looking. He's trying to repeat that same move that Clark's done up front, but the Walls Luff McLaren's just sort of closing the door there.
Here's the Jamek Pem car again in the thick of the action, and that's what happened with the Porsche 911 RS, the brand new car to Australian GT. It was the first one in the Southern Hemisphere. There's a couple that have lobbed for Asian GT now, but the Walkinshaw Group, and they are putting a lot of effort into that. Adrian Burgess, team boss, was heavily involved when they rolled that car out for the first time. And if their supercar boys are angling for a steer in that at some point,
I would think everyone with a helmet and a racing
licence
licence will be knocking at the door for that car.
Here's a couple of South Australian-based Lamborghinis dicing at the front of the field. The Tailem Bend, The Bend Motorsport Park sponsored car in front with Yasser Shahid. Passionate racing family out of Adelaide. Of course, they're heavily involved in Tailem Bend Motorsport Park that's currently under construction about an hour southeast of Adelaide. I think it might have some similarities with this place when it's finished. It's a little bit further from the sea, but it will have the same fast-flowing nature. And Yasser and his brother Sam, who races the Porsche this year, heavily involved in that project. It's unbelievable.
It's great to see them, so passionate about the sport, but also giving something back to the sport, creating that sort of facility. I mean, these cars are getting faster and faster, and, with bigger fields turning up, it's going to be great to have another international grade circuit on the bill as well.
I'd put shotgun to be trackside watching that. I'm sure you'd call shotgun to driving it when it happens.
I'll put my hand up for sure.
So the two Lambos dicing it out. That's such a checkered past in Aussie GT racing. They've been fast all the time, Lamborghinis, especially in the hands of Roger Largo and David Russell, the JBS car out of Queensland, but they never seem to be able to translate that into results. It's been a really checkered past for the Italian brand.
And one of the things that people actually, like a common misconception of these cars, is that they're still four-wheel drive like the road cars as well. The normal Gallardo road car is all-wheel drive, also comes in a rear-wheel drive variant. And in GT racing, all of the cars are a rear-wheel drive only. So huge speed in these cars, though. They're doing great this weekend, and it's great to see, both of those cars up the front fighting for
it. Whoa, that's a
move.
Huge moment. Off at 250k at turn one, the Maranello Ferrari spins and skillfully avoided by everybody else in the field.
Graham Smythe at the wheel there. His eyes in his right foot would have been getting a workout during that one. Again, with the ABS in these cars as well, when they're firing backwards across the grass, of course, you're going to get some locking there, but you could see the car spin in the right direction. He did a great job actually to recover that, and also clap my hands to everyone else in the field for avoiding what could have been a very, very major accident there.
Yeah, huge off, and there's no such thing as a small off at turn one. It's quite fortunate because you have to go a long way off before you actually hit anything, but it's still so high speed, and as you could see with young Graham there, the Kiwi held on for a long time before that thing arrested itself.
And I think for him, he was following quite closely behind these two Lamborghinis. There would have been a lot of turbulent air, and I don't think he's really accounted for that. And it looks like the front of the car's let go, which then meant the rear's gone, and it's all over after that. But he did a great job, as I said, of avoiding any major incidents there.
You're right, and he sort of looked like he had two bites. He caught the first initial slide, and then it pendulumed and it fired him off the road. Wow, that's a hair-raising moment. Look a little bit further back.
Mercedes on Mercedes here. It's going to be a bit of a drag race here.
It's the SLS AMG in front. So the now outdated model, real trailblazer for GT racing in Australia, that car. It was one of the earlier of the current crop of GT3 cars that came here when Betty and Erebus Motorsport brought it out, and it created such a discussion with the gull wing doors, and it was so successful. Of course, it's now been superseded by the AMG GT that you can see making a move down the inside of the Lamborghini. and Beto had to use a fair bit of curb on the inside to get it through, but he did. And off the road goes Andrew Medicki in the Lubramax Aston Martin.
Yeah, again, just multiple cars going for the same piece of bitumen at high speeds here. If you run wide and you catch some of those marbles, you really run out of grip quite quickly. You're relying on a lot of mechanical grip in these cars to maintain your corner speed. And if you get pushed wide like that, obviously if you don't want to make contact, you've got to give somebody some room. And unfortunately in their case, they've given too much room and it's meant they've made it to the grass.
Mr. Wood watching on in pit lane. So turn one, this is a slide.
You could see there the front end actually let go. The rear of the car's then lit up quite badly at that speed. Being a mid-engine car as well, when the rear starts to pendulum, you've got to be really quick to catch it up. And Graham's done a fantastic job of avoiding, one, that flag marshal there. The Hackett Story car having to take evasive action. Great job by them. You can see fourth gear. They're probably doing 190 k's an hour turning into turn 2. And a great job by them to avoid certain contact there.
Now that was Pete Edwards looking back. There was a bit of contact there, and this was Medicki coming off. So recently purchased these 2 V12 Vantage GT3s out of Craft Bamboo Racing from Asia. Those 2 cars actually raced at the Bathurst 12 Hour a couple of years ago, and one of them ended up on the podium in controversial circumstances. Phenomenal motor race. So they're really good cars, and Andrew and George have long harboured a desire to drive together as the compulsory pit stops start.
And similar to Stephen Richards' team as well, it's great to see Matt Stone Racing getting involved in that program with them, bringing some of their expertise and staff across from the V8 Supercar world into GTs, and it's already paying dividends with them, getting good cars, good drivers, they're going to get results.
Well, and very much the same. Walkinshaw Racing, of course, with the Porsche, Techno Autosport with the McLaren, and they've all got direct links back to Europe as well. They all spend time on the phone overnight, downloading and sending data back and forth, and it's remarkable how connected the GT world is.
And there's even engineers here this weekend from Europe for some of the teams in pit lane. I know Techno's got one of the main guys, JD, there working with them. And to have that amount of, these are the guys that basically built the car and wrote the user manual for the car. To have them in the garage, talking to drivers, talking to engineers is just incredible.
Garth Tander folds his 6-foot plus frame into the Audi R8. Steve McLaughlin, fortunately, of a similar height, so they don't have too much work to do, but Garth will take over that car for the remainder of the motor race.
One of the only cars in this field as well that has a hand clutch to actually get them moving in pit lane. All the other cars generally have a left-hand pedal, like a normal third pedal, which is a clutch, but they actually have a hand clutch to operate on those cars.
So McLaren leads the way here at the Phillip Island Grand Prix circuit in the Australian GT Championship. We'll take a break and get the conclusion of this motor race on the other side of this. Welcome back to the Phillip Island Grand Prix circuit. We're at a busy time in this Australian GT Championship race. It's the pit stop shuffle. That is Shane van Gisbergen getting out of his McLaren 650S and handing over to its owner, Clark Quinn, who will take over and drive this car to the end of the motor race. Richard Kral and GT ace Renato Liberto with you. This is a crucial time in the motor race, Ren, because this is where it will be decided.
Exactly right. And, this compulsory pit stop times, you could see Shane and Clark there doing the driver change, being really relaxed. They've actually got to wait nearly 2 minutes, 119 seconds stationary in pit lane, which feels like an eternity when you've just been going around there in minute 28 a lap. So it's really going to mix up their race, but, getting Clark in the car, he's no slouch. He'll get on pace very quickly.
What that's done has elevated these 2 Lamborghinis in particular to the front of the field. We look at Yasser Shahin, his pit stop time was 72 seconds. So it's a third of a lap around the Phillip Island Grand Prix.
We can see him coming into turn 4 here. It's basically from turn 4 back to pit lane is the gap that they've actually got on track now. So for Yasser, he's just really got to focus, not make any mistakes, and just try and drive a clean race to get to the end here. And he's probably in for a good result.
Been pressing on though, doing some good laps down in the 1 minute 29s, the pace in the low 28s.
That's really, really impressive race pace. You look back to a year or even 2 years ago when they're doing 31s and 32s around here, and to be running at sort of qualifying pace now for an hour sprint race is just, it's incredible.
Bathurst is always the ultimate lap time indicator in Australia, and they've come down from 2:06 to basically 2 minutes flat in 5 years.
Yeah, I'd put strong money on somebody cutting a lap there in the miracle 1:59 next year.
Oh, that'd be amazing, won't it? As we look further back, McLaren and Ferrari, one of the great fights in Formula One over the years, has continued into GT racing. The 650S has just been such a phenomenal program, and bouncing back from the 12C, which was a fast car but had some reliability issues and some durability problems. with the 650S, they fixed all of that, and it is about the most complete GT car you can find at the moment.
It is, obviously it proved it had its pace at the 12-hour. It's been a front runner here in GT for the start of the year, and it's just up to the other brands now to catch up against the 458. There's a couple of years of evolution between those cars, and certainly having driven behind Shane up at the 12-hour this year in a 458 like the Maranello car there, what you lack is the drive out of corners. You're pretty quick through the straights, but it's just that initial drive up to your top speed where the McLaren really pulls the gap.
Whoa, Garth Tander! Wow, he was deep on the brakes into Honda.
I lost count of how many cars he went round the outside of them, but that's pretty impressive. He's going to stick with it, and he'll pick up another one here at Siberia as well. Great move.
Inside of the STM Merc. So, how was the commitment under brakes? Now, I know these cars have got ABS, but it can't be that simple, surely.
No, I mean, there is a lot of brake pressure to apply, but still it's up to the tyre and the road underneath. And to run wide there like he has and still pull the car up and make it turn, he's really, really on the limit of what's happening there. The cars have multiple adjustments in ABS and traction control, and I actually saw him make a couple of adjustments on the wheel just afterwards, so maybe he's just winding a little bit more brake out of the car now as well.
And the driving aids in these cars are great for the gentleman drivers, the semi-pro guys, the guys that don't do it for a living, because they've got that safety net. But guys like yourself often wind those controls right back when you guys jump in.
You do, but for a long stint somewhere like Bathurst 12-hour, even endurance racing over in Europe, you actually still use a level of that intervention. It's become so good now in these cars that it's more consistent than a driver can be over a 2 or 2.5 hour stint. So you always drive with a little bit of margin there to work with, but certainly as a driver, the feedback you're getting now compared to a few years ago is just next level.
Ricky Capo in the BMW Z4 GT3. Right in the thick of the action here, reigning Australian Formula 3 champion. Said earlier in the year that while the downforce levels are there and it's such a different tyre, it's a different way of driving, and it was a big learning curve for young Ricky to get himself up to speed as the McLaren fires itself off down the escape road.
That's a big late break. We saw Tander fire down the left-hand side, but hold on to it. That was just a big late move there by Cap up the inside as well. We spoke about the ABS before, and there is a lot of that late braking going on this weekend.
But he's done a good job adapting to that. Here's a pack of Lamborghinis dicing together. Yasser Shahin just in behind them. And this is for the pointy end of the field too. The M Motorsport Interloy car there, car number 48. Glenn Wood and Justin McMillan sharing that car this weekend. Yasser Shahin just in behind. And the number 14 Taplin car in front. Yasser goes down the inside. That's a good move at turn 4. And he'll have himself track position now, and he'll get the position. So good bit of racing between a couple of Lamborghinis. But that positional change could be critical for the end of the motor race.
It looks like even maybe a small amount of rear bar damage there to the Taplin car, the third car in the picture there. Hopefully that doesn't affect the rear tyre or the aero too much on the car.
Talk about adapting from a junior open wheel formula, a wings and slicks category like F3 into one of these cars. As Ricky said, the downforce level is similar as we have a look at this amazing move from Garth. Wow.
That's commitment, and that's also, there's commitment, but there's also hope that the car to your right isn't going to overbrake themselves either, and he's managed to pull that off and sneak through. I'm sure he's probably started breathing around about now.
He's a pro, cool, calm and collected. Just like racing a supercar. That was the move down the inside of the apartment hotel SLS.
There's not many places to get a short, sharp move like that done, and Garth's done extremely well in those couple of hairpin bends, a short break, and he's been able to pick up 3 or 4 spots in a couple of corners. It's a great lap to him.
And that was a good move by Shahin. You pointed out during the break all the debris on the road down there at Honda. It's incredible.
Yeah, there's a lot of stones all over the track there, and obviously the cars are starting to sweep that through. But if you're the second car through after whatever cars caused that runoff there, you're going to have a big moment there on those rocks.
So first, second and third on the road. 2 Lamborghinis and an Audi. So it's Garth Tander coming home with a wet sail, chasing these 2 down. And he's hauled in a lot of time. You've seen some of the brave moves he's been making. And this is the fight for the lead in race 2.
You can see on the dash there as well, just on 235 through Haysheds, flat to the floor there. It's an incredible amount of downforce these Audis have got. I know on the Ferrari you're having to work pretty hard to keep the car flat through there on an older tyre. we're nearly at the end of 1 hour on these tyres, so that car is really well hooked up, and Garth's doing a great job steering it, and he looks like he's going to make pretty easy work of this Lamborghini.
And part of the joy for me for GT3 racing is the different types of cars. So mid-mount V10 in this, and the Lamborghini's in front, the Ferrari's a mid-mount V8. The Aston's completely different. It's got a huge V12 stuffed in front and that very long bonnet. And watching the different driving styles is really interesting, and you drive all these cars very differently.
And that's exactly right. They do have very different characteristics, like the road versions of these cars do as well. They share the same engine power plant, same configuration, and it's great that, through the balance of performance with the wing kits, the weight limits, the tyres that they can put on the car, they all effectively achieve very close to the same lap time.
So this is Tanda working on the back of the M Motorsport Lamborghini for second place. Leader just in front. What about another big move down at Honda? He wasn't quite close enough that time.
I'd expect he'll probably try and set himself up for MG and then make the run stick for the front straight. That's probably the best option to do it, because you risk putting yourself in the hands of a slipstream down the front straight from the Lamborghini. Oh, it might get it done earlier here. Great move. That shows his experience there. Just found a gap where many other drivers wouldn't.
Oh, Glenn Wood's holding on though. So McMillan started this car, Wood to finish, and he held on at the hayshed.
Great move. He really held on to that, and Tander's going to put himself in a position here to maybe try and dive up the inside, look for a switchback, and try and get it done on the front straight.
Down the outside at MG. We've seen how good he is under brakes, Garth Tander. There's your switchback. You called that perfectly, Renato. Now let's see if it comes to fruition.
The idea is going to have to be to try and get a toe down the front straight, but you can see he's already had to back out of it. The aero wash from that Lamborghini in front just means the front end of Garth's car wouldn't be working as normal, and he's dropped about 10 k's down with his entry speed there, so now he's going to try and tow that back across the next lap.
Final lap, last lap of the motor race in the Australian GT Championship. Yasser Shahin out in front, and the longer that the Interloy Lamborghini does a defensive job on Garth Tander, the better his odds get out in front. No disrespect, because he's driven brilliantly, as has Tander, who goes down the inside at the southern loop and grabs the spot.
I was watching that then thinking 2 corners time he's going to make the move, and all of a sudden he's made the pass. Great move, but then the switchback.
Terrific racing, and the Lamborghini will not go away. But now Tander should finally have cleared it and got second place. And he's now got 6 or 7 corners to chase down the yellow Lambo that leads the way.
That was a great little tussle there for a couple of laps, really showing the difference between the two cars. The Audi's got fantastic mid-corner pace. The Lamborghini's extremely strong in a straight line, and obviously under brakes there, Garth was just really willing to put the nose up the inside and get it done.
It was that big slide on the exit of turn 2, I reckon, that cost Garth a little bit of time and allowed the Lambo to come back up the inside. So this is the run to the flag. Yasser Shahin out in front. He's going to do this, He has got enough track position to hold on. It's been a mighty drive from Garth Tander, who we know loves a scrap. He's one of the best racers in the sport. But Yasser Shahin out in front, the South Australian for Lamborghini, will not only win the race, but he'll win the round as well.
What a fantastic drive by him and the team. That's just such a great effort. Really good race. No mistakes, and he just held on for the end.
There's the boys at Buick Motorworks. Dean Canto watching on. He'll co-drive that car in the 101 race here later in the weekend. What a superb drive. And Garth Tander, you just cannot say enough about the way that guy carves his way through the field.
That was a proper tussle. We haven't seen that kind of give and take driving in GTs for some time, and it was really good to watch. Both of the guys had a lot of respect for each other and great results.
And spare thought, Ricky Capo, great drive, P5 in the BMW Z4.
It was a challenge the whole way through. The car had pace, so at the start of the race I was letting the pros through because I thought it was going to hold me up, but I think we had pretty good pace all the way through. It was exciting, really exciting.
Obviously really disappointing in the first race this morning to have that puncture and go out while we were leading, but guys did an awesome job. We had to change the setup, and the car was really strong, so just jumped in, went as fast as I could, and just needed one more lap, but it was a lot of fun.
It was a big stint. I mean, kudos to Justin. He did a great job to give me the car, I think, at about P13. And we just had to push forward. He kept saying to me, mate, you got to lead, but you got Yasser right behind you, and he was fast. And then GT was just an animal. Like, he's coming quick, so it was really good. This is our second podium. We won Clipsal, which is good, and had a bit of a lull in the last couple of rounds, but hopefully we're back fighting.
Terrific drive by him, and fought all the way in that one, Renato. Terrific drive.
Yeah, and look, for those guys to be scrapping like they are, they don't drive these cars full time. To be able to jump in and be that comfortable in the cars, there's a lot about them as drivers, but also the cars as well. And I'm looking forward to seeing a lot more of this racing this year.
It's a great championship too. Nathan Morecambe leads the way now, just in front of Clark Quinn. James Conderis and Marcus Marshall still sit joint in third place. Justin McMillan and Glenn Wood, with that great result, have rocketed themselves into the top 5. But it's a compelling championship and plenty more racing to come in this year's Australian GT Championship. Terrific racing at Phillip Island. Well done, Yasser Shahin. Not only a race winner, but a round winner as well in the Australian GT Championship. We'll grab a quick break and come back with some more fast race cars. Formula 3 coming your way from the island right after this.